Well, since the release of Fiducia Supplicans, it is now turning into a very volatile situation in the Catholic Church. Now we have the Hungarian Bishops' Conference coming out and saying they will not be enforcing um, uh, Fiducia Supplicans or allowing for same-sex blessings. Like I said in a previous video, because it's not blessing the individual, which you're allowed to do as a clergyman in the church, but it's blessing the fact of their union, quote unquote, as a homosexual couple. That is not permissible in the church, it never has been. God cannot contradict himself, nor can the church. So the bishops' conferences, various ones from around the world, most of Africa, Hungary, now the Greek Catholic Ukrainian Church will not be allowing this. A priestly fraternal order in England, I can't remember exactly the name of it, but they will not. It's between 100 and 200 priests. They will not be complying with this document, and we have not seen this kind of kickback in a long time in the church. And I knew it was going to be on this issue because Pope Francis, he's a yes man, just like Joe Biden, and he got to the top by saying yes, and to things that contradicted the church's teaching. And he's surrounded by clergy that a large part of them are homosexual. You are not allowed as a homosexual inclined person to join the priesthood. This is the church's teaching. It's been upheld by Benedict XVI. You're not allowed to join the priesthood. It is for straight men who wish to give up a family life to follow Christ crucified on the cross, by suffering like Christ did, not having a family, etc. But it is being ignored in the modern era. It has become largely the Novus Ordo Church has become very, very much a gay profession. Vocations are down. Church attendance is down. Belief in the real presence in the Holy Eucharist is down. The families are getting smaller. Almost every single statistical category in the new church is negative. So, as a result, faith is not being fostered. Priests that are currently priests in the Novus Ordo Church do not have the faith as they had before, I think, by and large. Subject for maybe another video, bring up some statistics on that. But so this has allowed Pope Francis to become surrounded by, St. Gallen Mafia, the Lavender Mafia, terms meaning the gay lobby in the Vatican. And they've been pressuring Pope Francis for a long time. I think if left to his own devices, he wouldn't have issued a statement like Fiducia Supplicans. But he's not left to his own devices. He's a yes man, so then he's finally caved to this lobby, this gay lobby. So finally we're starting to see kickback. And this is good because I've always said it takes a certain amount of suffering, a certain amount of breakdown in the church before people shake the cognitive dissonance that they have with the fact that the Pope is not Catholic, and he's never been Catholic as long as he's been in office. He teaches things contrary to the church, and in large part approved by Vatican II, which is another topic, but that's heretical council. It does not line up with infallible teachings on certain topics, like religious liberty, collegiality, and so forth. And there's definitely problems. But this is so a level of suffering in the church is good because it wakes people up, and then that we can start readdressing these issues, these topics that you have to sort out first before you can have a meaningful conversation, a meaningful remedy to certain problems. And Pope Francis, he's working with a church that is very ignorant of teaching. He's working with a modernist philosophy that has pervaded all of Western society, that teaches moral relativism, narcissistic hedonism, scientific reductionism, things of that nature that really clout the masses' minds into one fact, into coming to the conclusion of one fact that is most important, that objective truth does exist and it still matters. Modern philosophy has conditioned us through schools, education system, through media, through literature, to start breaking down this notion of objective truth, and then making truth into subjective. What I believe is what I believe. What you believe is you believe. You should keep it to yourself, and you should keep religion out of the public sphere, even though that's not what the Constitution says, for example. But that's another topic. The Constitution said Congress shall not establish one religion, establish it, but it can be religious. These modernist principles that come out of the French Revolution, basically they killed the king, they destroyed the monarchy, they destroyed the church, and it was about fraternity, liberty, and all these principles that you get in the modern era. And then what happens? The Industrial Revolution happens in the mid 1800s. Then this is all relevant to where, because first you break down objective truth, you break down order, you break down authority, then there becomes this free for all and with of power essentially. And then with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, we become very materialistic. So we have breakdown of authority, breakdown of moral norms, breakdown of objectivity. We have the replacement of more of material concerns, wealth, money, power, pleasure to the senses, things like that is the highest good. So this is all overlaying the breakdown of the Catholic Church, because it's slowly being pervaded with these modernist forces. And now it's the Pope himself is a modernist, and the popes have been for a while, at least since Pius XII. And so he's allowed to do this because of social conditioning. We are a modernist society. And so the things here he is doing, he is agreeing with essentially the church, the deep church, and the deep state are now aligning themselves with each other in order to accomplish the same ends, such as open borders, such as environmentalism, environmental alarmism, Marxist principles of wealth redistribution. And so they're starting to align, and the way that, and it's because of these modernist principles that Pope Francis is able to do this. He's able to become a globalist and push those ideals, while at the same time neglecting what the church teaches and in teaching something else. So he and essentially he's put up the Catholic Church now is just the hierarchy in the Catholic Church is now just a mechanism for globalism. That's changing. That's in another video. I want to go over that, the traditional Catholic movement, where we stand on that, and also, how fiducia supplicans is going to hurt the Pope or the churches, the corrupt churches, hold on the minds of the people. But if you're looking from this Pew article here, Americans, including Catholics, continue to have favorable views of Pope Francis. So after all he's done, after all the teachings he has taught that have been against the Catholic faith, the population not only likes him, they love him. And as this article will see, he's probably one of the most, if not the most, favorably viewed politician, authority figure in the world. So this was from 2021. It's just a little bit outdated, but I think it's the most recent that Pew's had. And I don't expect these numbers to change much. It would be interesting to see the next one that comes after Fiducia Supplicans. But this will go to show you that, in general, the masses are ignorant. And sometimes it's not any fault of their own. They have things to worry about. But it's important to understand. It's important to know your faith and to follow politics enough where you can have an opinion on these sort of things. Because that's how we got in this place to begin with, is that people not caring. Our society is breaking down. We're becoming more tribalism. We don't have concepts of natural law, moral law, things that bind society together very in a healthy manner. And now it's become tribalism. Well, white, black, red, Mexican, South American, European, Ukrainian. We're all in these camps. Men, women, um, old, young. We're all putting ourselves in these camps, and we become further divided because we have no unifying cultural principle like the Catholic Church. That's how society, for much of European history after the birth of Christ, we were able to have a unified society with great architecture and law codes and beautiful art and things of that nature. So we need to come back to definitions instead of treating the church like a popularity contest. What exactly are we teaching? But Pope Francis is able to keep destroying the church, keep contradicting the church's teachings, keep gaslighting people, and he does this a lot. He uses Orwellian principles, doublethink, and gaslighting. Gaslighting is not an Orwellian one, but it's in the same vein. Gaslighting is basically saying, don't believe your own senses. I'm telling you the truth. So he's saying, don't believe your quote unquote lying eyes, but just believe what I'm telling you. And then doublethink is taking two things that are mutually exclusive and justifying them, saying they're both the same, or 2 plus 2 equals 5, essentially. So how is he able to do this? Well, because we turned the church into a popularity contest, and the masses are ignorant, essentially. So there's no way to come out of it unless you start caring and you start studying, which is what they don't do, which is what we as a society do not do. He has rebuffed. I want to add this too. He has rebuffed quite a few attempts to correct him. Okay, so this isn't just me saying this. This is a growing segment of Catholicism, of the gaslighted Catholics, the non-traditional ones that believe that the current church teaches that which has always been taught before Vatican II. That the teaching is the same before and after Vatican II, which is not. It is in direct opposition, which is, I'll show you in another video. The doctrines are heretical, and we just teach them like it's normal Catholicism. So there's that. That's the majority of Catholics. They're unaware, uninformed, or they're hateful of the traditional teachings. But he's able to do this because we do. But there has been attempts to correct him. There's been multiple dubia, which was issued by cardinals in various countries twice. I know Cardinal Burke and Brandmuller was three of them, and other ones as well. And basically, these dubia posed to the Pope various questions of doctrine. And they request an answer, yes or no, instead of a written answer. It's meant for clarity's sake. And what Pope Francis' technique was to ignore them for years. He ignored them, and then finally gave a response. I don't even know if he gave yes or no, but he is still the misleading answers to various questions. There's been several documents sent to the Pope from lay people, from theologians and canonical lawyers, commentators, academics, that twice in 2015 and 2017, I believe, it was Supplica Filiale 2015 and Correggio Filialis 2017, and they basically were saying this is the Pope's teaching, how it's heretical, and then asked for correction, essentially, and these were completely ignored by the Pope. So he's aware, but he's continued to to go against the the church's teaching, and because he is the most favorable, must be the most favorable authority figure on earth, to be honest. This right here, 6 in 10 U.S. adults, not even just Catholics, 6 in 10 U.S. adults have a very or mostly favorable opinion of Pope Francis, according to a Pew Research Center survey conducted in March. This is nearly identical to the share of adults who had a favorable view of Francis in February of 2020, 64%. So you see very high. I don't think presidents haven't got that high in many years. I don't even know the last time a president of the United States has been that high in favorability. Usually it's in the 50s, even for a good one. Biden right now is 45, 46, which is low. So even if you don't even share the Catholic faith, you find that 64% of the time you find the Pope, you have a favorable view of him. So, and then, yeah, this is the graph here, just shows favorable view, non-response, unfavorable of all American adults. So, pretty steadily high. And then here's the percentage of U.S. Catholics. Look at that, 82 to 14%. And here's Catholics by party affiliation. And remember, in 2019, the Pope allowed the goddess, a idol of the goddess Pachamama, to be enshrined at the Vatican, in the Vatican gardens. He was present. There were people around the Pachamama idol, prostrate. There was a Franciscan in a habit, prostrate before the idol. And after the idol was stolen out of the church, out of one of the churches, I can't remember which, and thrown into the Tiber, soon after, Pope Francis called it the Pachamama. He did not call it Virgin Mary. So this is gaslighting going on. They try to say that it was a replica of the Virgin Mary. No, it was brought as a Pachamama idol from a South American tribe that worships it traditionally, the Pachamama goddess, as an idol. And so all this is going on, and people are still unaware, and they still find this Pope favorable. The only thing that seems to resonate with the population is the sex scandal. It's like that would severely affect the papal the view of the papacy. If that really concerns them, they're missing the point. If you have to restore faith to the church first before you can fix the sex scandal. Because if you have a bunch of people going into the priesthood that don't believe in the priesthood, that's the recipe for disaster. And practicing homosexuals are not permitted to become priests. The church teaches that. The church has always taught that. And Benedict XVI upheld that during his pontificate. If you have a homosexual tendency, you are not permitted to join the priesthood, period. So and if there were to be faith restored in the church, in the clergy of the church, if they practice this religion out of faith, then the sex scandal will work itself out, because there will be no homosexuals, or very little that sneak in there, but there will be very little homosexual priests in the church. And even if you're not Catholic and you're an atheist or of a different religion, you can appreciate this, because all we're asking is for the Pope to be honest. What does the church teach? We want honesty, because the objective truth, if you use logic, you're going to arrive at certain conclusions, and you can siphon off the pork barrel spending, if you will, of the conversation on religion. The truth the logic should speak for itself. I'm almost like a skeptic when I say that. A skeptic or an atheist. I would be viewed as an atheist like that. But no, like Thomas Aquinas said, that all sciences must support the highest science, which is theology. So it would work itself out, but we do expect integrity and honesty here. But American Catholics from either party, they do support the Pope, and they are either they don't practice their faith, or they're in willfully ignorant, or they just don't care, too busy or something. But something's wrong with these numbers. Here it says the views of Pope Francis have remained fairly stable among Catholic subgroups. For example, Catholics who identify as Democrats or who lean toward the party continue to have a more positive opinion of Francis than their Republican counterparts, a partisan pattern that has held since 2018. Okay, yeah, so Democrats, since he is a globalist, he does push those globalist agenda points: the open borders, the environmental alarmism, the Marxist redistribution of wealth. So yes, the Democrats would definitely align with him. But look at the number. 90% of Catholic Democrats expressed a favorable opinion of the Pope. 90%. That's one of the highest numbers you're ever going to see for a politician or a world leader. And then compared with 73% of Catholic Republicans and GOP leaners. So I think the Francis's globalist agenda, how it's working itself out, is working against his Republican support, obviously, but still 73%. If a president had that, they would get a fourth term. Presidents, I don't remember the last president, like I said, was had that. Gotta say it was Reagan, because Reagan won all states except Minnesota in his first or second term. But yeah, it must be. It's not as high as obviously the Democrats, but that's still too high of people who support the Pope who don't know their faith. Because if they knew their faith, they wouldn't support him. And then mass goers, among weekly mass goers, 84% said they have a very or mostly favorable opinion. 84% of weekly mass goers. Again, Catholics that don't know their faith. They go because since the mass has been stripped down of much of its significance, it's definitely a watered down mass, a new mass that most Catholics go to. You are what you pray, or you believe what you pray. Lex orandi, lex credendi. That's the oldest law in the church. The oldest truth in the church is what you pray is what you believe. So 84% favorable to the Pope. Again, they might not know because they don't have time to look into it or investigate, but knowing your faith is a big part of being a Catholic. So yeah, that's a problem there. And then 82% of people who attend Mass less often say they have a favorable opinion or mostly favorable of the Pope. 82%. Not much difference there. 2 points. And then what this shows, the religious nuns, white evangelical Protestants, largely view Francis favorably. This shows that other religions, non-religious people, he's still favorable even among them. Among non-Catholics, views about Pope Francis also have not changed much. In the March survey, majorities of white Protestants who do not identify as evangelical, 70%, religiously unaffiliated adults, 61%, and black Protestants, 60%, say they have a favorable opinion of him. And it's hard to say what fuels that. Why do non-evangelical white Protestants support him 70%? I think he's just because he's a voice for Christianity, they say, just one among many. So he's kind of a counterbalance in the world, or they see him to the progressive agenda, which he's becoming less and less so. Like with Benedict, there was actually a counterweight phenomenon where he was seen as a conservative pope, and he did counterbalance some of the European Union humanist agenda points. But then it says evangelical Protestants are more divided in their opinion of the pontiff, with similar shares expressing favorable 45%, unfavorable 47%. That means they view Pope Francis like most Americans view Joe Biden. So pretty bad. I'm not sure why that is. Um, I did some study on evangelicals. Is it, no, that's evangelical. No, that's they're less. It's the authority factor. I think they're very anti-authority in the evangelical Protestantism. So they don't like Francis, but it's for the wrong reasons. Because we know with just a glossing analysis of the book of Acts, Timothy, Titus, and much of the Gospels, there's all over that the New Testament. There's instructions, and about there's writing on proving that the church is hierarchical. Okay, Timothy and Titus, books of the Bible, they were bishops. It says explicitly different passages on the papacy, the office of the Pope. And that's an example of another video, but just one example would be the keys of the kingdom of Peter that were given to Peter by Jesus, and they said, upon you, you are Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. Then if you compare that with the Old Testament, Isaiah 22:22, which is a prophecy of Christ's coming as being one who would receive the key to the kingdom. And if you overlay that with Matthew 16:18, it's obvious that yes, Jesus got the keys, but then he gave the keys to Peter. So there is and then also in Luke 20, I believe, Luke 20, as my Father has given me, so I give you a kingdom, that you will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So there's plenty of proof for the office of the Pope, or the office of the Pope, of the hierarchical church. But the evangelicals, they just don't like the fact that he's a hierarch, essentially. So they're pretty zealous, and they're pretty zealous about it. They also, I think, align with MAGA views. They're very, very zealous in their political religious beliefs. And I hope one day to break down the argument from their perspective and to examine what the populist movement is doing in the world, in the church. I've always said that the deep state and the deep church are working together. This is evident in many different ways, but a good one to bring to the forefront is the Vatican Secretary of State. He in 2016 or 17 he went to a Bilderberg group meeting, which is the top bankers, politicians, all the influential people of the world. They met in Italy that year, and one of the agenda points was they're going to talk about populism, emerging populism, and that was the first time a cardinal came to the meeting. So no doubt they spoke about that. There is some overlap, the deep church and deep state, and you get equal and opposite reactions to it. With the deep state, it is MAGA. With the deep church, it is traditional Catholicism. So yeah, the people are supporting Pope Francis, and he's enabling him to do what he is doing, to go against the teaching, the infallible doctrines of the church, and to create something new, which is not Catholicism, and purport that. It is not just him, it is most clergy of the world right now. We're in a bad time. Doesn't mean the church is defectible. I mean, it says in Scripture the end times will be like the days of Noah. So how much more proof do you need on that? But the church will be reduced to a small remnant, and then when this blows over, and it will all become crystal clear that this Pope is not Catholic, nor were most of the clergy. And once we understand the doctrines a little bit much more, and we understand that the favorability of the Pope, it's a popularity contest. It's rooted in ignorance. We have to go back to definitions. What is Catholic? What is the meaning of a blessing? What is, and sort out all the double think and the gaslighting from this current pontiff. So thanks you again for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.